5 at 5. It's offer review. And if you check your email, you will have 55,000 of the event currency. I know that this very carefully crafted, well-presented Reddit post made it to the developers. And I feel like the outcries on all various social medias, there was numerous Reddit posts, numerous Facebook, Discord, YouTube videos, everybody all saying the same thing. And I know this one, I know that this particular post made it to the developers and they read it because it actually explains the math and why it was generally unfun and unfair. So complaining does matter. I do think that the situation didn't need to get this far. Like, it's kind of sad that it had to go this far, but at the end of the day, we're able to get the costume, the Kestrel costume, relatively easy, and which it should be, right? And so that's a good thing. Strike celebration update. So this is explaining the situation. Last week, a ripple effect from an issue Gambit raid caused an undesirable experience with the strike celebration milestone. This was not our original intention. Yeah, the problem is that the currency was loading in from the first version of the Gambit raid, which they tried to fix, but they made it worse. And so they decided to basically just give up on the event and give everybody the currency, which is the right thing to do. It just like if somebody would have, if they're going to reuse a currency, make sure that it's zeroed out before the event goes live. I think they reuse currencies all the time. And it seems like a simple procedural thing to prevent that from happening again. We want to show an appreciation for our players who have sent all players at player level 25 a total of milestone points, which is enough for all the rewards. This also helps you get closer to that amazing Kestrel looking costume, which I was pretty excited to get. Now, I know people did spend power cores, and so I've heard rumblings of people that were already coring this event to get through it. And I don't have a good answer for you. Like, that sucks, I guess. Separately, keep your eye out for another inbox message scheduled for delivery tomorrow, March 28th. That will contain some exciting rewards in celebration of Marvel Strike Force 5th anniversary. Cool. And look forward to their enthusiasm, dedication, players, all the feedback. Look forward to finishing up the 5th anniversary festivities. So a lot of people are asking about the Kestrel costume, and there's confusion. So for me, I collected the milestones, and I got basically 2 orbs from the Strike Celebration milestone. So like the Originals orb and the Crystallis orb. Then you go into your inventory and you open them. And then when you open them, a milestone triggers where you can collect the cold phase bits. And as long as you get through 4 of the 5 orbs, then you'll get the Kestrel costume. So the Midas orb is an offer for $5. There's going to be a login calendar, which I believe is tomorrow. And then we have the Salute milestone running currently. So this should be a relatively easy way of getting these 4 orbs right here. And if you want to buy the Midas orb, which is $5, which has 2 million gold, then you can get, I guess, the Kestrel costume a little bit quicker if you want to do that. So there is the Strike Salute, and that's one of the orbs. So you have to open the orb, and then it's in the achievement section. Now, this is another error, and I don't think it's been fixed. Can't attempt the Star Spangled Man campaigns if you're missing an even single member of the team. And this is true. If you go into this story mode right now and you go into the node, you need to have 5 rebirth characters to go through the story mode. And this is directly opposite of what it said in the post. The story difficulty requires rebirth or invader characters, and then they explicitly state there's no minimum number of characters required. You can launch each mission with just 1 rebirth or invader character if you so choose. So something is wrong. I notified the developers, and so did Tana. 2 issues with the story. Captain America World War campaign, it doesn't let you use invaders, and it looks like you need a full team of 5 rebirth. Both are contrary to what was originally announced, and I'm treating this as bugs, and I believe it is a bug myself. Not sure how above we'll see it throw. Lori's aware and reported to you. I'll keep you posted. So we haven't heard anything back like that. There was literally 6 or 7 posts on Reddit about this. Hopefully it gets fixed soon. I'm expecting probably some sort of messaging later tonight, probably after this video goes live. The other thing is two other things. A lot of people are disappointed that the event is 45 characters, shards. Well, it's not true. There was 5 shards on Friday's web rewards, and then there was 40 shards in the story mode, which is enough to get a 2-star, which a lot of people was disappointed. And I hope this is not a ongoing trend going forward, but it might be. But this is something that they talked about in Friday's blog post. And then the other thing is that once you've gone through the story mode, so let's say you go through the story mode and you unlock World War II Captain America, which he is required at gear tier 13. This team of 5 will have all to be equipped at least gear tier 13 to participate, and there's no yellow star requirement. I went through that because I did meet the requirements, and a lot of people are asking me if it's worth like racing to upgrade him. Like they just unlocked him today. A lot of people are asking. My ISO recommendations was right there. Then, is it worth racing? The rewards on this challenge level, in my opinion, are somewhat uneventful, but do go take a look for yourself. I'm not going to be coring it. It looks like there's training materials, and it came down to like, do I want to spend the training materials for cores? And a lot of people have told me that they're not rushing upgrading Captain America World War II to gear tier 13 to participate in the challenge mode. But I think you do want to get him there so that you can get through it at least a little bit, because there's daily energy that accrues even if you don't core it. And so I do think that's worth doing. Next, we've got, anybody miss the silhouettes? I miss trying to guess the upcoming character silhouettes. Anybody else miss them? Yeah, I do. Apocalypse isn't that game breaking and it's time to quit. And this post right here is, I definitely empathize with them. Like the question came up to me, which I think is going to be more impactful in the game now, which is going to be more impactful in the game long term, King or Apocalypse. And I had to pause and think about that for a minute. Like, I don't know the answer to the question, but King in a lot of weebs seems more impactful than Apocalypse. And so is that right? For as hard as it was to get Apocalypse, how is it that King feels just as important in a lot of ways that Apocalypse does? Apocalypse doesn't feel that game breaking. He is strong though. He's very strong. Getting tired of Mirror Matches Arena. There are only a few times where the game breaking characters release. Ultron, Doctor Doom, Dormammu, Silver Surfer, Kestrel, Eternal, Spider Weaver, any others. Kang. Seems that most players have Apocalypse in that special unique. Time to quit before the next year-long event, being disappointed with the next big legendary character most players will get after the long grind. How do you feel how do you feel about Apocalypse doing a year-long event? And I do think he's strong. I don't know if he is year-long event strong. And then I wanted to talk about, this is going to kind of be a ramble rant right here about the earnings of Marvel Strike Force. Thoughts from a recent Tana video why Scopely is the way they are. Tana's new video showing the revenue of the game when it began. Very important metric is a massive spike in revenue from the pandemic, a third higher during the early shutdown than before or after. Having worked in a variety of firms on the PR side, having to explain company decisions to the public, almost 100% guarantee what happened. Companies are not in the business of projecting or accepting lower year-over-year revenue numbers. And I believe Scopely paid $250 million for Fox Next, which was a lot of things, but it was mostly just Marvel Strike Force. There were some other projects in there also. And I think that closed like in January of 2020. So right before the pandemic. If that isn't going to line up, if that line isn't going up, your product is dying. Scopely numbers were artificially inflated by the environment thanks to the pandemic. And this is true because the first Fix MSF movement was right at the beginning of COVID. And I remember that was right when I think Cyclops came out, and they were supposed to be like all the alliances and the Krakens were going to get in and not buy Cyclops or something. I don't really know. And it turned out that it was Scopely's highest month of revenue. What I'm trying to say is that the effectiveness of the boycott, the effectiveness of Scopely or ineffective of Scopely, all were second to this thing called the pandemic and everybody being at home with nothing to do, this brought a flood of players to Marvel Strike Force, and they spent a lot of money. And I feel like it had nothing to do with their ability or inability to run this game, or a strike or not having a strike. That trumps all of those things altogether. It's obvious if you look past the revenue charts and take into account the overall environment. However, I can guarantee that Scopely management, people who crunch numbers, have nothing to do with the game player development. Don't take environment into account. They do, because I actually have an article, but I'll get to that here in a minute. They actually are very dismissive on the pandemic, and then they say, yeah, but we're smart people, and they I think they even said something about being humble too. We're going to read it here. Didn't take environment to an account when making projections from investors and setting goals for Marvel Strike Force. Therefore, rather than understanding the numbers before and after the pandemic, the actual baseline numbers for the game and the pandemic was an outlier. Corporate has most likely budgeted projections on an artificially inflated number than tasking the Marvel Strike Force team than hitting those projections. And we actually have some quotes from them bragging about hitting, I don't know if bragging's the right word, but talking about how they made $300 million in 2020. Explains no QA. Explains unusual extreme milking of whales and screwing of free-to-play players. This explains the web store. Yeah. Explains the massive jump in the number of drop of quality store offers of the past year. Yeah. Look through this prism is easy to understand where we are at. And it sucks because I'm a spender. I buy every new character, enjoy the game. That's me right there. I like the game, actually. But I'm at a breaking point. My time in the game has already dropped. Once I get the satisfaction of unlocking Apocalypse, if things haven't changed, I'll be out, because I'm not going to be abused by the stupidity of some really dumb executives. And I think this is kind of larger to the truth right here. They don't have to be dumb. They could be cynical and self-interest. The CFO could have lied early on about how much the pandemic was responsible for that large growth period, so they could take credit for setting up the game for success. Then they can brag about this achievement when they interview the other companies and jump ship, bigger salary before the chickens come home to roost, which also, these articles we're going to read, most of those people have left Marvel Strike Force. I mean, they will deliver, they will deceive the living out of players to increase company profits and rationalize part of the job. Why wouldn't each employee just deceive to advance their own personal career? This is what happens when you normalize sociopathic behavior in the workplace. And I don't know if they're sociopath, but this is an article from April 15th of 2021. The growth doesn't appear to be purely down to the pandemic either. Scopely Chief Revenue Officer and board member Tim O'Brien says that while the onset of COVID-19 spiked metrics in the first month, things have leveled off by last September, and the company's slate of products are stable and growing this year. And it's not expecting any kind of change as vaccines roll out and the pandemic hopefully subsides. So they're already like downplaying the importance of the pandemic. This guy doesn't work for Scopely anymore. He's moved on. These guys right here, I believe he doesn't work for Scopely anymore. This guy doesn't work for Scopely anymore. Tim still does. And look what they say here. This is an article here where they're talking about making $300 million in 2020. And they're pretty much saying that because Scopely left them alone, let them do whatever they wanted to do, they thrived. That had nothing to do with the pandemic, right? One of the things that Rahimi liked was that Scopely gave Rahimi Studio creative freedom to make the right decisions for Marvel Strike Force and other games, such as an upcoming Avatar title, which has not been released. I don't even know what's happening with the Avatar title. I went and looked at it like 4 years ago. I wonder if the project even exists. Rahimi said Scopely's leaders understood that the team was functioning well and needed support rather than change in direction. See, really what was happening is that COVID just they fell into a gold mine. They literally fell into a gold mine is what really happened. And it had nothing to do with, this article. The tone of this entire article is like, we made $300 million because Scopely left us alone without even considering that the real issue was COVID. And then this sentence right here just kind of always struck me kind of weird. This culture starts with hiring the smartest people you can find who are also really humble, who are excited about learning from each other. Our culture is a learning culture. I don't have to talk about the company as a learning machine. I don't know. It's always just kind of really weird to me. And I do want to talk about what Scopely really cares about. And of course, Scopely really, really cares about revenues, right? I mean, they're a corporation and that's what they should care about. They're making money. But, they take it too far. And every free to play pay to win game that I've ever played, going back to 2015, there's always been, a large number of free to play players saying, well, it's the Kraken's fault for spending and they need to stop spending. And if something is going to be organized, I think it would be a better solution if all members of the community can participate in it, rather than, people, shouting, do this, you should do this, and they have no skin in it themselves. And this is a very, 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 very interesting LinkedIn post from a former Marvel Strike Force employee, basically clearly stating what is of paramount importance to them. And I can read it, or I can just tell you what it says, is what they really care about is people logging in every day. And I know, and I just don't think that's something that even a free-to-play player would be willing to do, is sacrifice their login bonus. I know for me, if there was some sort of thing, where people wanted to rise up and do a coordinated effect, of everybody logging a day off, we can read this. They absolutely really care about that. I mean, it's so explicitly stated in this LinkedIn post, and I think we'll read it. But if everybody in my alliance did it and all the other Kraken alliances did it, I think that would be good, because then free-to-play players could participate in it as well. Stop measuring MAU and DAU, measure regularity instead. So he's talking to other industry people. From my time at Fox and Marvel Strike Force, one learning stands above all others. Regularity is the king of KPIs, which I believe, and I'm not an insider, but I think that's key performance indicators or some sort of acronym. It's the main metric, right? Regular users are those players who frequently engage with the game over a certain period, such as weekly or monthly. Regularity is a more effective way of measuring free-to-play video game retention compared to traditional measures like monthly active users or daily active users for several reasons. Firstly, MAU and DAU metrics only measure the number of active users in a certain period, which does not account for the frequency or level of engagement of the users. For example, a user who logs in once a month is counted the same as someone who logs in every day. However, the latter is more likely to spend money and have a higher lifetime value than a former user. Regularity, on the other hand, measures how often a player engages with the game, providing a better understanding of their engagement and likelihood to spend. Basically, what he's saying is this is the thing they care about the most. And this is something that they care about. And this is something that a light spender or free-to-play player actually could have impact with if they want to get their attention, because they really care about these numbers. And I just don't see people doing that. Secondarily, regularity measures take into account the natural turn rate of free-to-play games, which can be high. Many players try a game but do not return, skewing the MAU and DAU metrics. Regularity measures only account for users who continue to engage with the game over a period of time, providing a better picture of retention. Finally, regularity metrics provide a more accurate reflection of health of the game's economy. A user who logs in frequently but does not spend money may not contribute to the game's revenue as much as a user who logs in less frequently but spends more money. Regularity measures help identify users who are more likely to spend, allowing developers to tailor their engagement strategies to drive revenues. Regularity is a superior measure of free-to-play game retention compared to traditional measures. And so this person basically is saying, this is what I learned at Marvel Strike Force. This is what's important to me. This is what's important to Marvel Strike Force. So just keep that in mind. I just feel like it would be better if the community could actually have, I feel like free-to-play players feel like they don't have any leverage against the developers, and that's just simply not true. There is leverage, as outlined by this, is what I'm trying to say. What are we hoarding for this week? Start saving gold orbs if you can for a gold orb opening event that starts April 3rd. This is a data mine, so subject to change. Coordinated assault will return next weekend, so start saving your ISO refreshes. Also, tomorrow, there's going to be a Voodoo Blitz, and you do not want to collect the milestones because there is going to be an Angels Army event that starts on Friday, and so that's where you will claim them there. Next, garbage. Absolute garbage. This is an insult. These five core things are not been good. 5th anniversary training deal. This is all right. You get 100 for $5. Cool. I'm not going to buy this, but this is typically something they try selling for $75. Or in the past, they have sold 3 of these for $100. So we've got $20 for one Elite 6 Mega Orb. I value these at $1, but a lot of people like these for $5. Then this is the Midas Orb offer, which was kind of like what I was thinking is basically going to be the only way that you could get the Kestrel item. But you get 2 million gold for $5. So that's reasonable enough. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, when we're talking about 2 million gold, and I kind of always, have this story about back in the day when I used to play Marvel Strike Force, we only had to blitz every 6 hours and all that stuff, right? Back in my day, a 1 million gold drop could be very helpful. It could bring the full team. But nowadays, 1 million gold is not even enough for 2 levels. Yeah, that's true for sure. All right, now it's time for the giveaway. I really hope you liked today's video, because if you did, you're in luck. For every single person that likes this video, you will be getting for free in your account an 8-star whale soap. Feeling dirty after whaling on a game? Introducing whale soap, made from the tears of whales. Let me know what you think in the comment section about all the stuff we talked about. Largely, at the end of the day, I'm glad they resolved this issue because it was, it's a gesture of goodwill. I just wish it didn't get this far, right? I wish it hadn't, took all of the bitching and moaning that I had to do and other people had to do on Reddit over the weekend to get this resolved on Monday morning, or Monday afternoon, rather. Let me know what you think. Bye for now.